Welcome to the Veterans in Politics Talk Show. Join us every Wednesday night at 6 p.m. Pacific Time, live stream on Facebook.
Welcome back, and welcome to the Joint Veterans Endorsement Interviews for non-judicial candidates. At the outset, we'd like to formally recognize and thank our sponsoring organizations for making today's event possible. Mary Perry, Clark County District Court Family Division Department P, Veterans in Politics International, Nevada Veterans Association. We'd also extend our sincere appreciation to our additional sponsors and community partners whose support helps ensure a professional, fair, and transparent endorsement process. We are honored to have all of you with us today. Before we begin the interview, let's review some of the rules and the format. First, panel members will introduce themselves by stating their names and the organization they represent. Next, each candidate will introduce themselves. That would be you. And please include the office you're running for and explain why you're seeking that position. Then we'll proceed with the interview portion. This next part does not affect you because there's no other candidates here, but it's not a debate. It's an interview. In the interest of fairness to you, we're going to limit strictly to 90-second answers per question. At some point in time, we may go to a lightning round and reduce that possibly 60 seconds or even 45. We'll see. Depends on where we're at in the questioning process based on what time the clock tells us it is. And when your time is expired, you will hear an alarm sound. I will give you a hand signal, something akin to this, that means you have 30 seconds left. When you actually are at your time being up, you're going to hear this sound. That means your time is up. So please finish whatever sentence you're on quickly so we can move on. Let's see here. And then after we have completed our questions, each candidate will have 1 minute. You will have 1 minute to make closing statements. Again, you'd remind us who you are and why we should vote for you for your office. Do you have any questions? Great. Then let's start down here with introducing yourself and who you're representing.
Martin Walker, Nevada Veterans Association.
Bill Carnes, Nevada Veterans Association.
Annette Levy on behalf of Veterans in Politics International.
Cindy Lake, Veterans in Politics International.
TK Crabb, Veterans in Politics.
Awesome. Thank you all for being here today. And my name is Nancy ROECKER. I live in Henderson, Nevada. I am running for Assembly District 12, which is the area that I live in from Lake Las Vegas down through part of Cadence, if you're familiar with that area. And then it jumps up to Sunrise Manor, which is along Sunrise Mountain and Frenchman's Mountain. And it kind of curves around and touches on the north end to North Las Vegas. So it's fairly disparate in terms of distance. There's a big area in between where I do not cover it. And there are multiple kinds of people that live in my area. It's not homogeneous by any stretch of the imagination. And I'm running for Nevada Assembly District 12 because I have 3 children and 5 grandchildren here. And when I came here, I followed the first 2. I really wanted to get involved. I was ready to retire from my career in technology. I had a great career and I wanted to give back to the community. And I started doing some community service work. And then a friend introduced me to someone who was running for my seat in 2022. I got involved in the campaign and he unfortunately lost, but he felt so good about what he did that he stepped up and ran for Congress in 2024. Unfortunately lost again. And we didn't have a good candidate to run. Since I had walked and talked and done things in the district, I decided it was my time to step up. And at the end of the day, I narrowly lost by less than 1%.
All right. Thank you for that. TK, ladies first. Let's start at that end. We'll work our way this way, please.
TK Crabb, Veterans in Politics. If elected, what is the first bill you would draft a co-sponsor, and why is it your top priority?
Well, I said I did my homework because I actually have a son who is a veteran. He's a Marine and he lives here in Las Vegas. And so I spend a lot of time talking to him. And really what I'm going to focus on is veterans access and outreach, which means we're going to need to fund additional VSOs statewide. They need more advocates working on their behalf. I want to reach out to high density veterans communities. And in the north part of my district, there were quite a few veterans. When I was door knocking, there are areas, and unfortunately, some of them are very run down areas. So I know there's particular slices where there's a lot of need. I also have people that I know who are in Lake Las Vegas who are veterans. So, it's people are in all walks of life right now. And I want to establish a centralized online resource hub because what I find is that veterans have a hard time navigating the landscape. It's very hard to find out what paperwork do I need, what system do I need to go through. And so the goal is to have more veterans successfully accessing the benefits available to them.
Cindy Lake, Veterans in Politics. You said something about the district being disparate. How do you intend to represent all those walks of life that live in your district? It's a twofold question. And how would you well represent all of those folks rather than dividing them down into groups like veterans and others?
Well,
Thank
I
you.
think given the times, there are certain things that everybody is concerned about. And in fact, I've been having some of my campaign team go out and knock on doors just to confirm what I believe and what I'm hearing in, my immediate neighborhood. So people are worried about public safety. And I just finished the Metro Citizens Police Academy so that I could be more informed about what the police do in this town. I'm also enrolled in the Henderson Police Academy. They have overlapped by a month. Secondly, the economy, jobs, prices of things. We're in a war and it's unfortunate. My personal belief is that it's going to be for the better of the world. And so I'm proud of our military, as is my son. So working on the economy, and then healthcare is a huge problem. And I actually invested in and I'm working with a healthcare company that deals with cancer patients and giving them alternative pathways to dealing with their healthcare issues. And then finally, there's always education. And I don't know anyone who's not trying to make education better, but I actually have some ideas for higher ed that I think are going to be important, and for trade schools, because not everybody's destined to go to school. So those are 4 issues that everybody in my district has some concern about. Maybe not all 4, but at least 2 or 3 of them. And that's what I'm really going to focus on.
Annette Levy for Veterans in Politics. What would you do to boost the economy in District 12? I live in District 12.
Oh,
Yes, I'm in the Sunrise Mountain area.
Okay, very good. Nice to know you, Annette.
Thank you. And there are a lot of areas that are very run down, a lot of homelessness, high crime along East Charleston Boulevard in particular. What specifically would you do to fix that?
Well, as I said, I finished the Citizens Police Academy, and I actually did a ride along in the district and talked to the captain at the end of the day about being involved. And, there are certain areas that are really crime ridden, and we have to get more focus on that, getting homeless people off the streets into livable situations, if only temporary, while we work on bigger issues.
But specifically, that's the goal, but specifically, what would you do to accomplish it?
Well, there's a housing stability situation that we have to work on, allocating money, putting programs. I know the governor passed getting some homes appropriated for homeless people. I want to look at how we find the funds to expand that. Secondly, as you know, Sunrise Manor is a township advisory board, and being more active in that, I am not a fan, I'll just be honest, of how our current county commissioner handles things. I think he's not addressing issues that need to be addressed. So looking at streetlights and things like that, and actually working in conjunction with the advisory board to make some new rules there, and actually activating citizens. They need to get involved. And I think people are staying home being angry instead of getting out and speaking out.
Thank you.
Bill Carnes, Nevada Veterans Association. We're going to talk for a moment about Nevada fiscal responsibility and limited government. So here's a question. Nevada's Constitution emphasizes limited government and protecting the people's liberty and property. Will you commit to a zero-based budgeting every session, oppose any new taxes or fees, and including expansions of the commerce tax, and or actively work to reduce overall state spending to preserve Nevada's longstanding tradition of no state income tax?
Wow, that was a big question. Okay, so first of all, by way of background, my last job for a big company was with Oracle, and I sold financial accounting software and operational software. So I know how to analyze, dissect, and move budgets around to put money where it's most effective. I am a very fiscally conservative person, so I do believe in zero-based budgeting, and I would like to work more closely with the Ways and Means Committee. I don't think I can get assigned to it, but I certainly know many of the representatives on the Ways and Means Committee, and to be that voice that asks the questions that other people are afraid to ask. Not why, but why not? Why can't we do these kinds of things? And I'm very well respected for my financial and business acumen, so I'm not afraid to keep going back to the well. I think the challenge is that there are many people in the legislature who do not believe like I believe. And so influencing them, making the cases for bringing in people who are the experts to substantiate the things I want to do is going to be very important to me, because I'm only one person in a 64-person legislature. There's only so much I'm going to be able to do individually, but I'm a great negotiator and collaborator. I was in sales in my career, so I know what it takes to persuade people. It is a challenge, though, given the current composure of our legislature.
Good afternoon. So last session, AB 217 was introduced, vetoed by the governor, that would have, the objective was to shut down communication between local law enforcement and federal law enforcement. As veterans, we believe in rule of law, hierarchy, authority, all of the above. What are your thoughts on supporting legislation for any sanctuary policies that prevent Nevada law enforcement from cooperating with federal authorities when an undocumented individual is involved in a crime?
They're undocumented. They're here illegally. I'm very staunch about people being here under the rule of law and following our laws. When I mentioned what my 4 big points were, public safety is number 1. If you're not safe, you don't live your best life. Healthcare is the second thing that we have to do there, and they're 2 separate issues. But that's why I'm doing the Citizens Police Academies, is to understand how all the pieces of the puzzle work. And I'll just tell a really quick story. I know I don't have much time, but when I did my ride-along, we arrested a young man. He was young. He was 37. He had 4 convictions on felony accounts and over 40 misdemeanors. And he had been convicted in California of murder and was let out on a 17 to 75 year penalty in 2 years. And I have talked to judicial candidates here and said, I will be in your face if I see you making those kinds of rulings, because they are unjust and they don't follow the law.
You had me.
I have really strong opinions about that particular topic.
TK Crab, Veterans in Politics. I like what you just said.
Thank you.
Which assembly committee would you fight to be on, and how would that position directly benefit District 12?
Well, like I said, if I had my druthers, I'd be on Ways and Means. I think it's really important to have people who understand budgeting, auditing, all the things that it takes to have a zero-based budget. I do happen to know the minority assembly leader is on that committee. I have talked to him about it, and maybe, just maybe, I'll get lucky. I don't think my background is that well suited for education, even though I'm a staunch supporter of education. All my children, it's very important to me. That's more than likely what I'm going to end up with. And then beyond that, I have to admit, I'm not as knowledgeable about all the inner workings of the other departments, but I think that where I really want to focus is on the business outreach, on licensing and things like that, because having worked with literally thousands of business owners in my career, and, I've been talking to unions, and unions are not going to have members if we don't have thriving businesses. So I want to encourage diversity, simplifying new businesses coming here. I'm a huge fan and started my career in aerospace and defense of manufacturing and pumping things out, being able to not just have a service-based economy. I think that's a huge issue. And so I'm going to have to navigate where is the best place for me to do that, because that's really where my background is. And then, as I mentioned, I work for this healthcare services company. So if I could get on the Health and Human Services Committee, that would be great as well.
I'm going to change it up. I was ready with another question, but you mentioned Oracle, so I have to lead with that.
Okay.
Larry Ellison.
Yes.
Project Stargate. Let's add into that inherent rights, Fourth Amendment rights, AI net. I would like to know your thoughts on our inherent rights as the citizens of the state of Nevada, and how you would vote on any legislation to come before you or sponsor any having to do with flock cameras that read license plates, data centers, taking water, power, etc., all along the same lines. Thank you.
Sure. And when I moved here from Colorado, so I'm going to address your concern about water. And I went through a program there where we learned about all the natural resources of Colorado. I would like to do something like that here. I haven't yet, but I believe that we need to be better at negotiating our water rights. And I know that's ongoing right now. The federal government's involved. That's never a good thing. But I do want to influence that so water becomes less of an issue. When you talk about people like Larry Ellison or Elon Musk, who I don't know well, either one of them, but having worked for Larry's company, he's definitely a power broker. He won't be stopped. No matter what I think or you think, he's more than a bull in a china cabinet. But I think our Fourth Amendment rights are really, really important. I don't know how we stop the flood of AI. And I have to admit that I do use it in my daily life to research things. And I have thought long and hard and done research around how do you contain AI. It's going to be very hard. And I have some other things that I want to do that it would also require power, not for data centers, but for energy. And so I'm kind of a systems thinker. I actually have a degree in engineering management, and it's putting together all the pieces and being able to determine how do we get to a good outcome across a bunch of these areas. And that may mean negotiating really hard with the federal government through our representatives to get a voice with people like Larry Ellison. We won't be able to do it from the state.
Where do you stand on Hollywood coming to Las Vegas and building studios?
Oh, another double-edged sword. Again, I could start with AI and actually tell you what my initial reaction was when I heard about that bill. And I have two friends who are actors. So I've spoken to them about this. And the wave is such that the studios are not going to provide the kinds of jobs they have in the past. So number one, the fact that people are saying it's a big job creator. My view is that it's going to create construction jobs. And then we're going to have this big edifice there. And they'll bring people in from other states. They'll use AI and it'll have marginal effect on jobs. Second thing is I have worked in the property management and tax credits world. And when you give big organizations tax credits, you have to be able to prove it. And I think they did a very poor job of proving that it was going to be beneficial to our state and not a net negative to the taxpayers. And anything that I would vote on could not be a net negative to our taxpayers. That is not acceptable. Just not acceptable at all, especially when it benefits large companies. So, I worked for Oracle. I worked for Hughes Aircraft once upon a time, which actually was a nonprofit that managed to make money. And so big organizations are very crafty. And I think we have to be very careful about giving them credits that could be resold and opportunities that could be outsourced.
All right. Bill Carnes, Nevada Veterans Association. Nevada is by law the repository for nuclear waste. In fact, barrels of liquid nuclear waste are being buried in Nye County and have been for several years now at the base of Yucca Mountain. There is an issue of increasing amount of spent fuel rods being used from nuclear power plants. The growth of them, they continue to grow and more without the security that we could have. Would you support legislation to allow reprocessing of those spent fuel rods at a location at Yucca Mountain in an effort to strengthen the national power grid and dramatically reduce the increasing supply of spent fuel rods around the country?
It's a perfect question for me. I actually belong to a group that meets once a month, and we pick topics that affect our economy and our lifestyles. And our topic this week was nuclear. So we had a scientist come, and many of us, we do research. We read things in advance to get ourselves educated. And they do that in France. France is the only country that does it successfully. It's marginally profitable, but it does create power. So if we go back to some of the questions we were just discussing about the need for power, it is an opportunity for us to repurpose those and create power. At eventually, once we build the plants, and we could even generate nuclear power as well as reprocess those. So the economic model is it's going to take a few years for it all, to all work out. And my understanding is that the real barrier has been the political environment in Carson City. So I can be a voice against the conventional wisdom that we shouldn't do that. And I will also, again, help work on the economics of it, trying not to, when we talk about outsourcing, most of the nuclear plants are produced in Japan and other foreign countries. So I would like to find a way for it to be done here if we're going to build reprocessing plants and potentially a nuclear plant. We have plenty of land. That's the good news, right? We do have land. So yes, short answer.
All right. So last session, AB 280 was introduced. One of the provisions in it was to place a 5% rent cap on rent for seniors 62 and older. It passed, but was vetoed by the governor. One of the reasons he stated was that it would discourage investment in rental properties. Many veterans rely on VA disability and Social Security to pay their expenses. So when rent goes up, by 10, 15, 20%, their benefits don't keep up with that. And this helps to add to the number of homeless veterans. So we need to try to push something next session to try to bridge that gap for the reasons for the veto. What are your thoughts on some strategies of how we can kind of bridge that gap and possibly get it across the line?
So I read the governor's position on that. I haven't read all of them, obviously. There were over 1,000 bills, but that one is near and dear to my heart. Thankfully, my son, veteran, is going to be able to purchase a home when he gets ready because he transitioned into industry, but that doesn't happen for everybody. They have health problems. They have to come out. So I think the governor's position was really based on interfering with free market forces. And I get it, but I think there are compromises. The question is, who do you have to bring to the table to recraft that legislation so that he doesn't see it as a barrier and then us being not attractive to people who are looking to invest here for other reasons. So it's on my mind, trust me, but I don't have the answer to it yet. I know it has to be brought up again. And he did pass, I forget the name of it, but an affordable housing, but it was a nominal number of homes that are going to be built. So Why was it so small? And can we afford to find money that we can expand that program and then maybe relax a bit how he's viewing getting in the middle of free market forces. The other thing is restricting how many rental properties outside interests can own. I just think that's prudent, even though it may restrict free market forces. I actually have a few people I know who are from California that own multifamily properties. And, we haven't stopped it, but I think we can slow it down.
TK Crabb, Veterans in Politics. Nevada operates under a balanced budget. Where would you cut spending and where would you increase it to better serve your district?
Excuse me. Getting over some kind of crowd. Actually, I would start with, do we have other sources of revenue? I think there was a mention of like electric vehicles and being able to generate specific taxes. I think we have to look at our sources of income and where the money is going now. There's a lot of concern, and I hear it from constituents about the big, beautiful bill and how it's impacting the state. And I have to be honest, going through the budget, I've been doing a lot of interviews, so I'm focused on certain things, but I really have to do a thorough analysis of the budget. And I would look at areas where a lot of money is being spent and start conducting audits to identify where there's waste and room for tidying up processes before I looked at moving money around. So I wouldn't be automatically like looking to fund things. That's not how I operate, and it's a big budget. When I downloaded it, I was like, holy cow. And things are so interconnected. And so, luckily I have good friends, and I will phone friends when it comes to things like that so that I can get expert analysis of this situation. And I know it's going to be hard because everybody wants more money. I mean, we could talk about all the people who've brought up Medicaid, and maybe you guys were going to bring that up as well. But I don't have an immediate answer for that other than, can we find ways to get people off of Medicaid?
Cindy Lane. I was just going to call a friend or phone a friend. Okay. The Nevada Constitution gives every citizen a right to keep and bear arms, as does the United States Constitution. Would you support or endorse any legislation to limit anyone's right to keep and bear arms?
That's the first question you've asked where I can answer with one word and I'll elaborate on it. No, I would not.
Yes.
Thank you.
If we ever get to meet again, I'll tell you a story, and I will tell you one thing. My first job out of college was working for Winchester. So you can imagine that I know about guns.
District 12 is heavily, heavily Democratic.
Yes, it is. Not heavily, but it sways that way.
I don't think a Republican has won District 12 in many, many, many years.
Okay, well, I'll have to be the renegade.
Well, that's my question to you is, what makes you think you're going to win this? And what are you doing to win it? In particular, what are you promising the unions?
Wow. Okay, that's a multifaceted question. Okay, I'm going to start with your last question because I'm not promising the unions anything. Every union I have talked to, they start out with right to work. And while I could argue for the value of unions in certain cases, they're not to me a universal answer. I do not believe that people should be forced to join unions. The downside of that is that people get benefits from unions that they don't pay for. I understand that. I think it's incumbent on the unions to present the value of their services to convince people to join. I don't think we should force people to join unions. So I'm not going to promise them anything. And what I have said to them is, you're going to have to work with me when I win. So none of them will endorse me. I shouldn't say that. There may be a few. But it doesn't mean that I don't want to talk to them and explain to them my views on the world. Secondly, because I'm a business person, again, I know you have to have money-making businesses to create jobs. So I'm not going to promise anything to them. As far as my platform in general, or how I'm going to win, I'm working with other organizations, I'm not an organization, but with organizations on getting out the vote, getting out the Republican vote, to change the tide of, it's a midterm, we're going to lose, so why bother? We've got to get out the Republican vote, number one. And I did really well. I also did really well with independents. And the district has changed. It was minus 8.4 when I ran 2 years ago. It's now about to dip under 6, so I can win. If I do more of what I did last time and appeal to Latinos, that's the other thing I didn't have time to do.
Bill Carnes, Nevada Veterans Association. Would you support legislation to privatize the DMV, much like Oklahoma has, to help alleviate the unresolved backlog and waits and delays, which have long become the norm?
With the appropriate controls, yes. I think anytime you take something out of the public sector and put it and privatize it, there's room for, I'll just call it fraud. I think you have to be really careful. And then who would come to the table? Would they have the expertise? And can you put the right controls around it to make sure that it doesn't become something different but equally challenging as the DMV is today? It's my least favorite place to go. And I'll just say, since you brought up the DMV, I'll segue a little bit. The fact that they register people to vote, and this goes back to her question, and they don't even know they're registered to vote, and then they get a card and they throw it away because they don't know what it is, and then they're confused about if they're part of a party. I spend a lot of my time educating people on how it works in Nevada, all the different layers of government, how you get things done, where you go when you need to find something. And that's something the DMV does that I really don't like. But the last 2 times I was there, it was very efficient. So I've seen some improvements.
I'm kind of at a disadvantage here because the ladies keep stealing my question.
Good job.
So actually, a good job. I will ask this, and something I was educated on. We have a lot of failing. Our school systems are failing. Our school systems are failing our children, and we're focused on things that are not academically related, and so we're almost dead last on almost every level of academic achievement. What are your thoughts on school choice?
I'm very pro school choice. I came from a state where it was kind of there. It wasn't officially there, but it was sort of there. And many of the school districts had alternative schools that you could enroll your children in. All 4 of my children started school in Montessori because I wanted them to have life skills, and I did not want them to learn how to test. That's not learning. So I wanted to give them that foundation. And so, yes, I'm pro school choice. When it comes to improving school outcomes, and I have an adopted school in Sunrise Manor, Lillian Hickey, up at the north side of the district. It actually is right outside the district, but a lot of the kids from there live in the district. And I go there and I read and I volunteer. And my personal experience of raising 4 kids and watching my grandchildren is you have to get parents involved. So supporting PTOs and getting the parents engaged in what's going on. I would like to see us reintroduce home ec, ethics, things like that into the curriculum. Take out the garbage, and I'm not going to say what that is, but just get rid of it. We have the unions with the teachers, and they're very opinionated. And I think that it's really hard. I've done a lot of research on this to measure teachers based on outcomes because you have so many kids coming from different backgrounds. Class sizes are too big in most schools. We need to work on that. It's harder for kids to learn when they're in an oversized class. But I go back to getting parents involved. It's so critical.
Okay, we're going to switch to a lightning round for the last set of questions. 60-second answers, please. Go ahead, TK.
Okay. TK Crabb, Veterans in Politics. Do you support eliminating property taxes for seniors? And if not, what specific relief would you provide?
I haven't calculated the impact of doing that. I think it's a great thought. I happen to be a senior, so I would love that personally, but I think you have to look at the impact of it. And I think that you can do maybe look at tax forgiveness for certain people that are in lower income brackets. that don't have, good social security benefits before you look at eliminating it. It's just very difficult to think about getting rid of an entire stream for a given population. And I think there might be some political backlash in starting with that that I wouldn't necessarily want to deal with. So you're welcome.
Cindy Lake, Veterans in Politics. Let's talk about what the legislative branch does. First and foremost, protecting the rights and the freedoms of the people. How do you intend to protect the rights and freedoms of the people by passing any new laws whatsoever? Thank you.
Well, rights are documented. Freedoms are a matter of opinion. When you get out and talk to constituents. So, to us, having a gun is a freedom. To some people, having gun control is a freedom because it makes them more safe. So I'm going to focus on rights. I love this country and I love the fact that we have freedom here. I've traveled all over the world, but rights tend to be more well documented. And so, as I said with the budget, I'm never one to make a change without looking at what's in place and what the impact will be of making a change. And if there is truly a reason for modifying rights, then I would first talk to my constituents and just get their input, first of all. And then I would go back informed, call in, again, experts, lawyers, probably in that case, before I made any kind of recommendation. So I don't have anything specific in mind that I'm planning to do.
This is Annette Levy. What is the one assembly vote from the last session that you think was the most important for District 12?
Now we're on the lightning round, and I don't have an immediate answer for that. Wow. I don't know if I have an answer for you, Annette. I just can't think of anything that I think was so egregious. What I didn't like is that I had to read why so many bills were vetoed, and again, like the one around housing. I look at those and I say it impacts my district, but I understand both sides of the equation. So things like that, where it was like, why did the governor veto this, or why was this really liberal thing passed that isn't really going to impact anybody? Holidays, enforcing new holidays. How does that help the citizenship? Why are we even spending time on that? So I tend to look at the periphery of things because there are so many bills. But when I'm in there, I will be talking to my colleagues and I'll be a lot more knowledgeable and I'll have a better answer for you next time.
Finish this statement, and bonus points if you can actually cite who said it and in what venue.
Oh, wow.
The power to tax is the power to...
Control?
Correct answer, destroy.
Destroy. I don't know that quote.
Uttered by Daniel Webster when arguing McCulloch v. Maryland in 1819 and repeated in the majority decision by Chief Justice John Marshall.
Wow. Okay, you got me on that one.
It says a lot. I would encourage you to read the synopsis of it.
Okay.
Your turn, sir.
Final question. All right. Going back to last session, AB 4 was controversial. It's one that added extra penalties for criminal acts, and a lot of people want to bring that back up. They don't like that it passed because they think there should be more focus on the wraparound services and preventive services of what got a person to that position in the first place versus penalty for the crime that was committed. What are your thoughts on that?
Having spent more hours than I want to think about recently at the jail, I think the hard part of doing that, I'm sure you all know that they segment groups depending on what they think is happening with them. I think more services can never hurt, but you have to look at how effective they are across those general populations and learn from what you do. So take the data that you get out of implementing more programs, analyze it, adjust, and remeasure. Because social programs, especially when it comes to mental health, are very, very difficult to monitor. I have 2 grandchildren who are autistic, and I can just tell you, I fear that they might end up in that kind of situation, and the services are so suboptimal. It makes me sick. So I would love to see us increase them and measure them so that we're adjusting and making sure they're effective.
Thank you very much. So this ends this round of interviews. We'd like to once again recognize and thank all of our sponsors, Mary Perry for Clark County District Court, Family Division Department P as in Perry, Veterans in Politics International, Nevada Veterans Association, and our additional sponsoring partners for their partnership, support, and dedication to veterans and to the integrity of our non-judicial process. I also would like to thank Nancy Roecker, who is here running for Assembly District 12. And we want to thank everyone for their professionalism, respect, and participation. Thank you very much.
Thank you all.
Join us every Wednesday night at 6 p.m. Pacific Time, live stream on Facebook.